All right, well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Lucca's, and thank you everybody for showing up. For Steve Evans, we're here for Steve Evans tonight. Yeah, Steve. Again, thank you so much everybody for turning out. And you know, we're all here because we love Steve. We loved his playing, and we loved him as a person. And there's nobody like Steve, as we all know. A truly unique and individual. So as you see, we got Steve's bass here. We got some people going to come and play it later to honor Steve. And we're going to do a few tunes, and then we're going to start bringing people up. And then later, after the first set, we're going to have a time when people can get up and share stories if they'd like. So if you have a good Steve Evans story and you'd like everybody to hear it, you'll have a chance to do so in just a little while. All right? Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to play a song here. Steve was a big fisherman, and you know, playing music is very much like trying to fish. You know, sometimes you get it, and sometimes you don't get it. But anyway, it's nice to see such a turnout for a bass player. Because I'm telling you, there's no glory in it, none whatsoever.
But Steve wasn't just a bass player, so you know, he was way more.
See, that's right. Also a novelist. That's what you have to do when you're a bass player. I also, you know, speak in 7 different languages and, you know, make chicken paprikash. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, more and more special guests coming in the house all the time. Woke up this morning and my baby was gone. I woke up this morning and my baby was gone. I feel so bad, left me all alone. I ain't got nobody to stay home with me. I ain't got nobody to stay home with me. I feel so bad, let my heart in misery. Hey now, pretty baby, don't you want a man like me? Hey now, pretty baby, don't you want a man like me? I can make you happy. Well, when you're always with me. Hey, baby, well, I'm all alone. Come on, baby, well, I'm all alone. Well, I feel so bad since my baby been gone. Break on! I woke up this morning and my baby was gone. I woke up this morning and my baby was gone. Well, I feel so bad, left me all alone. Hey now, poor baby, don't you want a man like me? Well, hey now, poor baby, don't you want a man like me? I can make you happy. saw Thomas Hockeridge in the, there you are. Thomas, you want to come up and do a tune? All right. One of Steve's favorite bands was Toto. I don't know if any of you knew that. So, in Steve's honor, we're going to do a Toto song. Let's hear it for Thomas over here on vocals. Come on.
Do we love Steve? Come on.
This is not a tune we normally do, just a little, warning here, but we're going to try to get through this for Steve.
Way
We're tuning Steve's bass. Steve's bass is sitting in on this tune. Let me tell you something about Steve's bass. All right, look. My name's Danny Kieran. One thing I can say is I played a lot of gigs with Steve, okay? And one thing Steve was famous for was he would bring 4 basses to the gig. And he always brought this bass, because this was his bass. And he'd get like 1 or 2 other basses and he'd bring them, and he'd bring like 2 amps. And he'd show up with all this shit, and he'd set it up. And then he'd pick up one of the other basses and play it for like a half a song. And then he'd put it back down and go back to this bass. And he did that on every gig. I must have played 1,000 gigs with Steve, and he did that on every gig. He showed up with 4 basses, played each of them for half a song, and then went back to this bass. There you go.
You guys are singing the key of God. You want to take the head? Key of God. Let me see you, big bouncy one. This one's good. Rumba. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. That's no mama door. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. That's no mama door.
better musicians because of Steve Evans.
Let's hear it for Larry Price. Larry Price. Paris Bertolucci, Gene Moran, Betty Karen, Daryl Ayers, who I just met. I didn't know it was playing. All right, we're gonna do bring Chris Kane back up here to do a couple of tunes. We're gonna get Chris Kane to do a couple of tunes, and then we're gonna open the mic up. If anybody would like to share some stories about Steve, it will be your moment to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to turn the mic over. If any of you would like to say a word about Mr. Steve Evans, then you can come up here and grab the mic and just tell the story. I don't know how many people want to tell a story or not, but if anybody would like to share a story or a memory, come on up and kind of get on deck. If somebody's talking, we will get the next person on deck and see who would like to tell a story. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how many people are going to be there. Okay, we got one person who wants to come up and say something. I will say this, that the only person I ever saw have two women come to blows nearly in a bar over him was Steve Evans. I'm not making that up, it really happened. We were on a gig and Steve was there with a lady friend and another lady friend came in too. And it got pretty ugly. All right, we're going to bring Mary Lou up, who's going to come up and say something. Okay. Is that you? You want to come up and say something? Come on up and say something. David Morgan is a very, very old friend of Steve's, known him forever, is going to have a few words, so please, it's it.
Hey people, so, excuse me, thank you. We're going to have a little talk about Steve right now. So, I showed up tonight, didn't even know that these pictures were here, back from Larry Blake's, probably from 1982 or 83, where I actually saw a couple pictures of Steve. But what I want to do right now is, there are, I believe, 3 bass players here that go way back when with Steve. One is Steve Ehrman, who I'd like to come up here. This is back from like 81 or 82, in 1980 at Larry Blake's. I believe I saw Carl Summer right here. Carl, if you're still here, I'd love you to come up. Carl, are you still here? There you go. Please come up here. He's here. No, I'm just getting you guys up here because all right, so this is the old Bass Players Club. Steve Evans and Carl and I, to an extent, knew Steve since I think 1979 or 78, something like that. 74 there. He played with Lucky Strike way back when. You were playing with Grayson Street at that point? Grayson Street, right? Like in mid 77, 78, 75? 75. And then Steve Evans came into the scene around 76, 77. And we were all bass player buddies back at that point. We're probably the 3 bass players here that have been friends with Steve for the longest. Ehrman is a great bass player, and he's all right. Yeah. But we're like the 3 guys, I guess, that probably go back. as bass players the longest of anybody here tonight, and because I'm who I am, I wanted to go up here and say how much we loved Steve Evans. He was the funniest, most supportive guy in the world. I told people that, you know, sometimes as bass players we can kind of, is he better than I, or am I okay, or, you know, or does he know more shit than I know? But Evans, it was never the case. He was always just like so supportive, the funniest and most humble guy in the entire world. I learned, we actually, you guys probably remember this, we probably learned a lot from a bass player named John Knight. And John Knight was a bass player, yep. He was a bass player in this band called Lynx that had Lenny Pickett in the band, Rick Kellogg, Dave Bartlett, John Otis, yep. Old buddy of mine from Salt City, Berkeley. Any case, the three of us really came up playing bass together and respected the shit out of each other as great players. Carl went on, of course, for many years, played with Robert Cray, played incredible records. I see Kevin Hayes out there, who used to play at the Raskiller also. I got Steve. Yep. I got Steve an audition with Santana when I left, and he almost nailed it, but for whatever reason. And then I got him a gig with Brian Auger. So from that point, he was like indebted to me. But Steve was literally like the warmest, most friendly, funny ass mofuck that I ever knew. And I just wanted to share that tonight and bring up the bass players, old bass players club from all our old days back, the Raskiller and on from where we all went. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys to say a couple things, because you were his best friends too. So, I mean, go on.
Steve sort of became an honorary citizen of the East Bay, even though he came from Marin County, home of, well, not East Bay players, but he made the cut, and, you know, scared us all to death, and delighted us with his antics. Always a great pleasure to run into him in an airport somewhere around the world and see that big bulge of a wallet in his back pocket and have a good laugh.
Hey, Dave.
And
How you doing?
like Dave said, he was always very supportive. And I remember him saying to me, "You don't know how good you are." That's kind of Steve.
He used to call me up. He'd say, "Homie, have you got a gig on August 14th?" And I'd say, "No." He'd say, "I'll give you $50 not to take another gig on August 14th, because I'm gonna have 2 gigs, and the one that pays the least, I want you to do that one." I love that guy. There was only one. These guys are great. I don't belong on the same stage with these guys.
After you was Carl Lucca. You're, so I'm just going to finish. You want to say something, but I'm just going to finish this. Okay, sure.
I would love to have you follow after because we're not done. Okay, Steve was the best kisser. Steve was the best kisser and romantic partner, period. We started flirting in 2013, thank you very much. And I heard that he had a girlfriend in 2019. Oh, damn. Sorry, no disrespect. I never meant to be the other woman after 6 years of being with him. I love you, Steve. Okay, so we would meet at Macy's, right? In the parking lot. Meet at Macy's. We met at Macy's at like 10 different Macy's parking lots in order to go to a show because he always wanted to have a brand new shirt before he went to a show. Okay? I just have to say that I can't even read my notes here. Then Kismet started. Steve's brother and my son Michael went to Italy together. Go figure, okay? Random. But Steve knew my son after coming to shows, including Sweetwater, to be a part of my son's show at Sweetwater. Thank you very much, Steve. I've been losing loved ones so quickly, and there's been many voicemails that I have from Steve. But I just want for you to listen to one voicemail from Steve. Yeah, it is. I'm not going to wait for this. I just want to tell you all that Concord Pavilion is having a show on October 19th. And I hope y'all will be there. I'm sorry that I couldn't pull it up. But, yeah.
Let's hear from Mary Lou, ladies and gentlemen.
I just want to say from all the old bass players here, we love you, Steve, so much, and we miss you, and it's right here, buddy.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Vogensen, I'm a guitar player, and Steve and I went to the same high school, he's a couple years younger than me. So I'm 19 years old and I'm working for the rec department in San Rafael, supervising a junior high school dance, and there's a band playing. And I go, oh, that's that skinny kid from the cross-country track team. And he had he was playing a K bass, you know, one of those Montgomery Ward basses. And it was like, I want you to know, he was 16 and he had it. It was there. You know, it was probably there the minute he picked up anything with a string. But the story I want to tell you, I loved him like a brother. Every time I heard a new joke, I'd call him up, you know, just to hear his laugh. But the great story is, about 3 years ago, I hired him to play a gig with me. It was just guitar and bass, a duo gig. And he played so perfectly and so beautiful. I mean, it was like Jim Hall and Ron Carter or something. It was just absolutely perfect. I had to kind of reel him in because he was starting to say stuff that was slightly inappropriate. You know, Steve, don't say that, man. You know. But the key point on this story is I said, Steve, you got to wear a jacket to this gig. And you know, I said, oh, geez, oh, come on, man. I said, Steve, you got to have a jacket. So he shows up to this gig. It was in Ross. You know, it was a high, you know, falutin party. So he shows up, he puts the jacket on, and I go, Steve, you look great. That's great, man. Turn around, let me see it. And he turns around, he pulled the jacket out of his closet, and there was this huge spider's nest with the little eggs in the middle on the back of his jacket. I mean, I could go on, I'm not going to, but when we had our first band together, it was shortly after I saw him play, you know, maybe a couple of years. He had an Opel Kadett, and everybody remember that? It was like a little sports car with a tiny little trunk. And he was really into Phil Lesh at the time. He knew all the bass lines off the first 3 Grateful Dead albums. note for note, and he had a stereo bass with 2 chords coming out, an alembic bass and pickups, and he had 2 alembic cabinets, and he had an Opel Kadett. So if you wanted him on the gig, you needed somebody with a station wagon in the band to get him to the gig. Anyway, thank you. I loved him. I loved that guy. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Greg Ron, and I got some stories for Stevie, but I'll try to keep them to a minimum because I know there's a lot of people who want to share stories. I first met Steve Evans in 2009 when I joined the Chris Kane band, and I hadn't even met him. I showed up on the gig, we're ready to play. He shows up at the last minute cussing all about the traffic and how much he hates the traffic and how bad the storm was and throwing things, and he brings out his big bundle of chords all tangled together and plugs in. We start playing a few tunes, and he looks at me and goes, "Yeah, that was pretty good, man. But next time, we were in C." Totally broke the ice, and I felt completely relaxed from that moment on. Stevie became a really close friend over the years. He would come up to Clear Lake. I had a vacation rental, and I would go up there and do maintenance on it. And he was the easiest guest, because all he wanted to do was come up and fish. So he'd come up, and he'd fish, and every 5 minutes he'd be going, Greg, I got one, come and take a picture. And I'd run out to the dock and I'd take a picture or a video or something, and then I'd go back and do my maintenance work again, and 5 minutes later, Greg, I got one. And we got little footage of that we're going to show you a little later on the screen. It was wonderful memories from that guy, yeah. Here's to Steve Evans, yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ralph. Anyway, I'm about 22 years on the road with Steve. I was Roy's roadie. Steve actually got me the job with Roy Rogers. Anyway, just one quick funny story. So we're in Nashville, Tennessee. We're playing the Waterfront Festival. We're staying at a Motel 6. And it's the days when you finally didn't share a room anymore. You finally got your own room, you know? So we get back to the hotel. We're both on the 2nd floor, and it's a hotel where there are a lot of ladies of the night, streetwalkers, all walking around. And so we bring all the guitars up into the room. Steve goes in, I go in. Next morning I get up, it's about 8. I come outside in my room, and both his basses are sitting there right up against the door on the side. The luckiest man I know, you know? He gets up, so I take the basses, I put them in my room. He gets up, and he doesn't even think about it, you know? Then he gets down to the band, and he's going. I go, Steve, where are your basses? He goes, they're in the band. And I go, you sure? And he goes, yeah. And I said, didn't you take them up to the room? And he goes, no, I'm sure I didn't. And he goes and he's looking through the van, and of course, no basses. So he runs back up to his room, opens the door, he comes out, and he just stands there. So, of course, I go back into my room, I come out with basses. He's like, you should have seen him. Oh man, God. Yeah. So anyway, I have a lot of stories, but that was probably one of the neatest ones. He's so lucky. Also, he's a guy that duct tape should be happy to have. Because if you remember, all of his cars, all the mirrors always had duct tape on them.
Okay, we just want to let you know there's going to be a slideshow and there's some video and video of Steve talking as well as playing, and a lot of pictures, and we're going to show that in a little while. We're just waiting for it to get a little darker. Originally we thought we'd do it before this, but we're waiting for it to get a little bit darker. So anybody else want to say anything? The floor is open, but if not, we'll get back to the music. Mr. Kevin Hayes is going to say something. All right, that's it for Kevin Hayes. Please.
Clap until you hear the story. I just have a short story about Steve. I was going to play a show. It was the Year of the Blues. I can't remember where this was, sometime in the 90s. It was the Year of the Blues designated by Congress. So I'm going with Robert Cray to play at the Kennedy Center, not indoors, outdoors. They had these tents, and you know. And so I'm on the Marin Airport, and I'm going to the airport, and the bus stops in Mill Valley, which is, you know, if anybody's ever been there, it's like under the freeway there, and there's a little parking lot. And I'm sitting in the bus, and it's kind of early in the morning, and you know, flying to Washington, and I'm kind of thinking about things. And suddenly there's this kind of commotion to the side, and I look over there, and this beat up station wagon pulls and like double parks by the bus, and this guy gets out, and there's like this stuff, and there's shit flying out of it. You know, it's like, and he's running around to the other side, and he's like pulling the stuff, and suddenly I go, that's fucking Steve, man. So he grabs his bass, and he you know, gets all the stuff, and he kind of loads himself onto the bus, and he's coming, and he's on the phone, and he's walking down the aisle, and I said, sir, I'm sorry, you can't bring that stuff there. And he goes, hey man, I'll be right with you. And so finally, you know, the bus takes off, and we get going, and he comes back, and I said, hey man, you know, you left your car sitting right. And he goes, that's why I was on the phone, man. I got a guy coming I left the key, and I had to tell him where the key was so he can come and move the car so we didn't get towed. That's my Steve story. I fucking love that guy. He's the best. The fucking best, man. Sorry.
I want to say that I asked quite a few people if they wanted to tell a story about Steve, and several of them said, well, I have lots of stories about Steve, but nothing that is appropriate to tell publicly. So that should tell you all there is to say. We're going to get the next group of musicians up here. Maybe we'll do some stories in a minute. So let's just, we're going to get some music right now, all right?
All right, here we go. 1, 2, up.
Thank you. Tom Morris. Come on and get up here, boy. Thank you, folks. You know, oh, God, I can tell you so many Steve stories. I'm done. I love him.
We're gonna slow it down a little bit. Just before we met, your life was opportune. I took you to the nightclub, oh, knew your name. Baby, baby, I wanna say I got some news for you. Somehow your story's only true. Let me tell you, I got some news for you. You told me you'd be late, that you took the wrong express, and then you walked in smiling with your lipstick on a mess. I just don't understand. I wanna say I got some news for you. So how the story's only true. Let me tell you, I got some news for you.
from Uncle Joe. I read the inscription, it said from radio. That's not my name. I wanna say I got some news for you. Somehow your story going true. Let me tell you, I got some news for you.
Next up, we got Wendy DeWitt. He's going to come and play. Come in.
Baby, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Bye.
Dan Earhart, Tony Stead, Terry Baker. All right, let's get the core band back up here for one more tune and we'll call it a night. Let's bring Randy Hayes, Andre Tarzi, and Greg Ron back to the stage one last time.
Thank you.
Greg Ron over there on the keyboards. Greg Ron. Let's hear from Randy Hayes back here on the drums. Randy Hayes on the drums. Andre Tarzi on bass. Noel Gutera on saxophone. And let's hear one more time for Steve Evans on the bass. Steve Evans on the bass. We love you, Steve. Thank you for being here, everybody, and thanks for making this night special and for paying homage to that wonderful man and bass player, Steve Evans. So thank you, thank you, thank you. My name's David Landon. Thanks again for being here. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.